Welcome to Nashville SC's post-game press conference. We have head coach Gary Smith here. Coach, if you can just start off with some comments on tonight's victory, and the big question is looking ahead towards a big matchup coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. As I've just said to the guys in there, in a two-legged affair, there's a lot of ground that can be covered in the first leg, and the side that went out gave the group tonight a very good platform to go and express themselves and to play with confidence. And it was a very genuine, professional and fulfilling job tonight. There are a number of guys in that group that have made their debuts or are getting minutes that they may well not have done before, but that is a roster. That is the strength of a group. And tonight, I think we've completed the task, knowing what we had waiting in the background with Miami. I think that was a huge incentive, and we'll now look forward to Thursday week, when I do believe that we host Miami here, and that will be a hell of a game.
Hey Gary, you're playing Inter Miami and Messi for the third time now in the very short time he's been in this country. Obviously it's based on luck and how things kind of came out, but have you learned anything from the first couple of times playing them? You haven't lost to them in 90 minutes yet, so I'm sure you're doing something right. But have you learned anything from the first two experiences that will help you in this third one?
What I have learned is he's very, very good. Look, there's some additions to that group that we haven't seen, of course. I've no doubt in these early stages of the season, both teams will be looking and thinking, we'll be in a much different place in probably 6, 8, 10 games' time. But at this point, the biggest influence for us on the game will be to get some of our attacking players back in the group. I think that will give everyone a lift and a boost against a team that, we all know are extremely talented and very, very capable. Over two legs, there'll be some challenges and maybe some plans to try and lay, to make sure that we're either in a good position or in a competitive one as we go into that second leg. But, I'm not worried too much about that at the moment. We have a game in between, and like I say, the health of some of the group is going to have a big influence on how we turn out next Thursday.
Gary, we saw a couple players make their debuts today. Two in particular, Forster Jago, obviously, with his goals, and then Amar Sejdic came on at halftime and offered a lot, I thought, from midfield. What can you say about those two guys? And you talk a lot about wanting competition in different areas of the field. Do you expect those guys have they made kind of a case to be included more going forward?
Well, I think Amar's an easy one. Amar's got tremendous experience in MLS, full stop, and he was a very nice addition to the group. Different to a couple of players that we have in the group in that midfield area. An excellent technician, a very good reader of the game and a good connector. So, delighted for Amar. In all honesty, the reason he didn't start was because there were a lot of changes in the group that I had to make, and I wanted to be sure that we could get through a good period of the game in good order. But as I say, Amar's been a really nice addition to the group and settled in very well. Forster's slightly different in the fact that he is an international. At this moment in time, the Champions Cup is the only competition that he can play in. However, circumstances can change, of course, and I think that the lad has done an awful lot for himself tonight and put himself on the map. It's been brilliant for the group, and I don't care what game you play in, as a young man, if you're scoring and threatening the goal, then there's something there. And it's something to be excited about. So, we're really pleased to have him in the group. He had a wonderful pre-season, and circumstances have been such that he gets his chance maybe a little bit earlier than he might have done, and he's taken it, in both hands. So that's brilliant.
Sort of along those lines, you see not just Forster for the first time, but Brent and Julian, and just overall, how much better are you feeling about your squad depth tonight as opposed to 24 hours ago?
Yeah, I think we always knew and felt that there were guys in the group that were capable. There's been some nice additions, certainly in and around the group in the off-season. I think those guys as well needed some minutes. And the circumstances evolved and were created in a pretty decent fashion for some of the fellas to get a good 90 minutes under their belt now. As I'd spoken about with Valère, I think the front line and the attacking players are my only concern at the moment. You know, we missed Tyler again tonight after a knock at the weekend. Hanny's still working his way through a little bit of an issue. Sam, likewise. Randall's out for a little bit longer. You know, there's a lot of talent there that was unavailable to us tonight. So, you know, very, very pleased with Mackenzie and Jacobs' contributions tonight, along, of course, with Alex and Forster, who we've already spoken about. I thought Alex's display in a more attacking role was excellent tonight. You know, a real professional and experienced display, I thought. So, very pleasing.
On those lines, when you mention Alex as an example, how many other guys you saw like they were that you could say, well, hold on, I can actually make him perform in this different position or in this different attacking or defending way tonight? What did you learn from the team, even after an unbalanced game like tonight?
Well, I think, look, I think I always probably knew that Alex is capable of playing in that role. You know, we must be realistic about what we've run into tonight. And I think the guys have done a very, very good job. It could have been really tricky and a lot more challenging tonight if the guys hadn't been as positive and as focused as they were. So to that degree, you know, I'm very, very pleased. I've said that, you know, a number of times. The challenge against MLS groups and more competitive teams presents a far different perspective for some of the players that we're speaking about tonight. What I will say is this: a victory in that manner is a big confidence boost for the individuals. I've spoken to Alex about his display in there. It was very, very good tonight, and he was disappointed he didn't get on the score sheet. You know, you could see that he was very keen to to try and hit the back of the net tonight. Yes, moving forward, it's a possibility. And I do think there are some really good habits that are starting to form. Clean sheets being one of them. I don't think it matters what competition, who you're playing against, or what challenge you have. Keeping clean sheets is a good habit to have. And whilst, you know, it was a different challenge at the weekend, we've scored 7 goals in 3 games. Again, being realistic about who we're playing and what that means. But I think that's a boost for everyone. And we go into the weekend's game in a good place. And some changes to be had again towards the weekend. And I'm hoping with a little bit more runway towards Thursday's game that there'll be a little bit more recovery. Some of those guys will get themselves back into a competitive spot. And, who knows? You know, 2 legs with Miami, that will be very exciting.
Gary, I guess with Lionel Messi coming up next week and and the Champions Cup round 16, I guess how do you make sure that for now, for the next 2-3 days, your focus is on playing at Colorado? And I guess in addition to that, I guess what have you seen? What have you gotten the chance to see out of the Rapids so far? And what are you preparing and expecting out of them?
Well, I think first and foremost, we're early on in the season. there's a lot of guys that need to get 90 minutes under their belt regularly for them to feel as though the season's really underway. So I don't think I'll have too many problems in pulling the guys into focus for the weekend. We certainly need to make sure we're adding points to the board as often as we can in these early stages of the season, albeit with, a very appetising two-legged affair against Miami coming up. As far as Colorado are concerned, I actually thought, I watched the game at the weekend, and I thought, the early stages of the Portland game, Portland were ultimately so clinical. I'm not sure they had more than 3 shots and were 3-0 up at half-time. But what you saw was a team, with a real cutting edge in Portland. Maybe Phil's, personality and the way that he's driven that team on. Certainly for their first and opening game at home, you could see that there was an appetite and an edge to the team. In some ways, it maybe is not a good time to play Colorado at home. They'll want to try and reverse that scoreline for sure. So I'm expecting a real challenging game, and I think early on in the season anyway, you should always expect that you're going to see a little bit of a bounce back from teams.
Gary, excuse me. Gary, on a lighter note, back in 2017, well, let's start with this. Walker Zimmerman was asked last game about team bonding this past offseason. Back in 2017, Claudio Ranieri, when he was with Leicester City, awarded his team when they had clean sheets with a pizza party. Do you have something up your sleeve this season with in regards to clean sheets?
The straightforward answer is no. I don't, and that sounds interesting, a pizza party. But look, whatever it takes, what I do know is, there are a couple of things that are going on in the locker room that have not happened before. That the guys had an already spirited and very close locker room. I think is showing some other elements and galvanising themselves into what I hope will be a very competitive season again. But 5 years in now, I think there are some. I think there are 1 or 2 angles that the guys, along with some support off the field in the pre-season, have seen as maybe a nice way to reward people in the locker room. I'm not going into it any more than that. But it seems to me that it will stay in the locker room and not to the local pizza parlour.
That concludes tonight's press conference with Coach Grisman. Congratulations on moving on, sir. And
Thank you.
We'll see you guys next week.